Ahead on our news tonight, the opposition pushes back against criticism and concern over an audit of the National Food Distribution Task Force. A former prime minister says the current administration is taxing the poor in favor of the rich. Plus, it's time to rebuild for 6 Potter's Key vendors with nearly $100,000 in assistance. Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Kendino Knowles. Prime Minister Philip Davis firing back at opposition critics who have slammed his comments about a recently released food distribution program report. Jasmine Brown has the story.
The Prime Minister was quick to respond to opposition leader Michael Pintard, who has been one of the loudest critics.
And I noticed the member said I'm sparing MGOs, I'm sparing the F&M. You know, again, that's a view that he has deduced, perhaps, from what I would have said. But maybe if he would have read the audit report that was laid, then he could see whether what I would have said detracts from anything that what was put in the report. I'm saying that there's been nothing, there have not been cooperation.
Pintard has called the PM irresponsible in continuing a narrative intended to demonize the former administration, which put in place the food program, which fed thousands of Bahamians in need during the COVID-19 pandemic. Pintard slamming the PM in the House of Assembly.
What you clearly indicated is that on this side, under the last F&M administration, that persons were seeking to enrich themselves, that this was a serial extraction of resources. In any jurisdiction, that is a reference to illegal activity, and legal activity, whenever it goes in a court, it faces a jury pool. That is very straightforward, very straightforward. You can't sanitize that, you can't change that. You suggested malfeasance, illegal activity. Illegal activity then faces a jury. That's very straightforward. Okay.
It prompted this response from the Prime Minister.
If he's saying that that's what he deduced from what I said, that's a different thing.
Yeah, that's his logic.
That's his logic that he drew from what I may have said.
In Parliament on Monday, the Prime Minister drew the conclusion that more than $10 million in public funds had disappeared after an auditor, ATI Company Limited, said that 2 NGOs that were involved in the program and collectively received a disbursement of over $10 million failed to provide requested information in a timely fashion. While Davis did not name the 2 NGOs, the report pointed to Lend a Hand Bahamas and Idea Relief. Davis says his administration is formulating plans to address the issue.
I don't have the power to compel anyone to cooperate with me. But yes, there are mechanisms through which people are compelled to cooperate, and those are being considered.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis also weighing in on the investigation launched into contracts at the Water and Sewerage Board under his administration. The former Prime Minister telling reporters today the Davis administration is grabbing at straws. The Free National Movement has called it a political witch hunt, it's a claim the Prime Minister shot down on Monday.
And Davis and those have been looking to find faults here and there. They're basically grabbing at straws. And now we're faced with inflation. I don't know details of the water and sewer, but Davis and administration, they can go and investigate whichever ministry they choose. I'm sure they probably have been digging in the office of the Prime Minister, and I welcome them to do that too.
As Bahamians still grapple with rising prices, the former Prime Minister saying the government needs to take from the rich to help the poor. This as he stressed his government had a plan in place for today's realities. Berthany McDermott has that.
Davis need to stop traveling and sit down and focus.
Despite announcements from government that options to address inflation are limited, former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis insists that they're just not working effectively. Asked about the issue ahead of this week's parliamentary session, Dr. Minnis suggested that the Davis administration tax the rich to help the poor.
They've essentially increased tax on bread basket items. But what they did is they decreased tax for the rich. In that once you buy a property, $2 million or more, rather than paying 12%, you now pay 10%. So what they could do if they're looking for money, they can put that back to 12, and the extra monies that they would get from that particular, just that one factor, they could use that to alleviate the breadbasket item.
SuperValue President and Chief Financial Officer Deborah Simonet said there is no end in sight to rising prices. Meantime, Minister responsible for Bahamas Power and Light, Alfred Sears, recently revealing an increase in electricity bills is also possible. Residents have been expressing concern about the rapidly increasing cost of food, gas, and other essentials for some time now. While some projections indicate that gas prices could rise to at least $8 per gallon, according to the Nassau Guardian's records, gas prices remained at an average of $6.33 per gallon. We asked the former Prime Minister what he would have done to solve this vexing issue.
I'm not here to solve their problem, all right? I know what we would have done because we, in our projections, we knew that it was coming.
While saying he has no interest in helping the Davis administration solve this crisis, he reiterated his government was prepared for this reality. He added that the Minister administration had predicted that gas prices would be higher by this month.
Fuel was going to be $8 per gallon in New Providence and $10 to $12 per gallon in the Family Island. That was our projection for me. We had projected that the cost of living was going to be extremely high. We had projected that as a result of COVID, there were going to be shortage of food. We had projected that the supermarkets were going to have great challenges, and we had projected that what we would have to do is introduce a food program again to ensure that everyone is adequately fed.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
All right, thanks a lot, Berthany. Well, it's time now for your first look at temperatures, and meteorologist Greg Thompson is standing by with the latest. Greg?
Thanks, Kendino. Welcome everybody for our first look at weather on this pleasant Wednesday evening. Comfortable conditions outside our studios right now with just a few clouds. Temperatures slightly warmer at 82. Winds out of the east-southeast at 6 miles per hour, and you'll feel slight temperature, very humid, 88 degrees. Satellite view, well, that moisture plume across the Bahamas is sank more towards the south, East Bahamas, clearing up across the northwest and central Bahamas. Still some showers and some isolated thunderstorms down there as well. And we did have a couple of isolated showers across the northwest Bahamas. We expect to see more pleasant conditions tonight through tomorrow. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
All right, thanks, Greg. Well, still to come on our news, we now have a better idea how much the royal visit cost Bahamians. The Teachers Union president urging educational officials to use wisdom as COVID cases rise in school. And later, 6 Potter ski vendors get ready to rebuild the government's help. It's all coming up in our news returns.
Got size at 6'5". Hi, this is Salute.
The Davis administration estimates just over $625,000 was spent to host the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge back in March. A preliminary financial expenditure statement revealing originally $636,194 was budgeted for the event. The preliminary breakdown shows more than $50,000 was paid to Abaco vendors, over $18,100 to Grand Bahama vendors, and just over $566,000 was paid to New Providence businesses and vendors. Accommodations at Atlantis Resort cost government more than $34,000 for the Royals, law enforcement, and protocol officers. Inter-island travel on Bahamas Air racked up $37,000, and Junkanoo participants were paid $21,000. The report concluding no dollar value can be placed on the benefits the royal visit afforded this country in terms of international media coverage. Former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis says he hasn't seen this report, but he said this.
I don't know how much to spend, but I think in either event, once you have such a visit, you would do your best to ensure that, that your country gets the best out of it, and to ensure that the royal family is likewise well treated and respected.
A statement from the Royal Visit Organizing Committee released this afternoon says This administration and the Planning Committee are committed to the fact that this visit was and continues to be an investment in Bahamian businesses, especially small businesses. The statement continuing, it was a small investment in comparison to the opportunity it gave to over 100 vendors and the opportunity to shine the world's light on our nation. It goes on to say the images captured by local and international photographers of the royals showcased unique experiences, and we can't begin to place a dollar value in that international reach and exposure. Some of these videos and photos are still trending today. And speaking of the visit, royal family enthusiasts worldwide thrilled over a viral TikTok video showing the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge straying away from royal protocol during their recent trip. The video, which captures the two at Atlanta, sparking interest as William and Kate openly held hands during a stroll outside the hotel. While there's no written rule, it is normal for royals not to hold hands in public while on official duty abroad. The viral video comes as we are just learning the total cost of the trip is just over $600,000. Well, since the Ministry of Education began hybrid learning with some degree of face-to-face instruction, the Bahamas Union of Teachers president says the union has seen an uptick in COVID cases. The cases among students, teachers, and support staff have impacted instruction, according to BUT President Belinda Wilson, who says a number of schools on New Providence and some family islands have been impacted, including C.R. Walker, T.G. Glover, C.C. Sweeting Sr., Garventines Primary, and about 10 other schools.
There are hundreds of students who were or are still in quarantine. Some schools had to close an entire unit or had to send into quarantine various grade levels or a full class of students.
This, as Wilson notes, external exams have already begun and internal exams are set to begin soon. Wilson issuing a voice note encouraging the Ministry of Education to use wisdom and keep safety first. Well, just days before Bahamas Carnival makes a return, the Pan American Health Organization is reminding Bahamians that the pandemic is not over and everyone has a personal responsibility to stop the spread of COVID-19. Here's Christina Dragovich.
The truth is that this virus is not going away anytime soon.
Pan American Health Organization Director Dr. Carissa Etienne issuing a timely reminder as COVID-19 case numbers in the Bahamas and around the region continue to climb. Recently, Dr. Etienne says 13 countries in the Caribbean have seen a rise in hospitalizations.
After a period of lower transmission, many countries and local governments are abandoning masking and social distancing requirements and have reopened borders. But at the same time, too many people remain at risk, unprotected by vaccines. The rise in cases should serve as a wake-up call. When people get sick, hospitals get overwhelmed, health systems are challenged, and the number of deaths rise.
PAHO officials say mask wearing and social distancing have served us well over the past 2 years. But after a period of low case numbers, many countries, including the Bahamas, are considering removing the mask mandate and approving large-scale events. When asked about precautions ahead of Bahamas Carnival's Survival Weekend this weekend, PAHO Director of Health Emergencies, Dr. Ciro Ugarte, says individuals should take measures to keep themselves and their communities safe.
We all have responsibility to reduce the opportunities for this virus to pass from person to person. And when we are attending large events, and when we cannot maintain a physical distance, we must use masks to protect ourselves.
166,195 Bahamians and residents are considered fully vaccinated against COVID in the Bahamas. Reporting for our news, I'm Christina Dragovich.
All right, when our news comes back from the break, nearly $100,000 for rebuilding efforts on Potter's Key Dock.
Plus, coming up in Sports Night, Jonquel Jones and the WNBA back in play. We'll tell you about her latest performance against the Liberty. That's ahead in sports. We'll also give you details on the Red Line track and field meet and, of course, the Eastern Conference Finals. That's all coming up in sports.
And later, how the nation plans to honor the legacy of a great Bahamian actor. The details when our news returns.
got size at 6'5". Hi, this is Sidney.
This is our news. Welcome back. $96,000 to be split among 6 vendors who lost their stalls in a massive blaze at Potters Key Dock last year. While this is good news for those needing to rebuild, other stall owners say more must be done to enhance the cultural hub. Megan Shepard has the story.
Vendors here at the Potters Key Dock say they are sick and tired of promises, from a beautification project to electricity. They say they'll only get excited when they see action.
They had promised us quite some time now about electrification. If we get electricity, there's a lot of things we can do if we have electricity. We can eliminate all these generators running.
They decided to do it a long time, be putting all the structures for the light and everything like that. Yes, they did work on the poles and everything like that, and nothing's happened. It's like they started and then everybody just stopped. Me personally, I get tired of the we can do it, promises.
We was promised that we were going to get electricity because we used to lose so much things, and nothing being done. We don't know what's going on Potters Key Dock. I mean, an hour key up and kick in, and Potters Key Dock is like, even the tourists don't even come out here like that.
Vendors tell Our News they have seen a slight uptick in business after a slow period. However, they believe the dock could be booming if the area was more visually appealing.
Whether it be from government or private, but we really need some input to upgrade out here and to get more tourists to come out here.
Complete the walkway. They started to do other stuff. Other uplifting would be better. More better for tourists, a little more attraction. It'll be more better for us.
We need some beautification around here. It needs to rebuild. It needs to clean up.
Darling says she is grateful for the local patronage.
We appreciate them because if it left us for just the tourists, plenty of these stalls would have been closed.
Now, Minister of Agriculture, Marine Resources and Family Island Affairs Clay Sweeting making a pledge to assist vendors who lost their stalls last year due to fire. Vendors say this action is long overdue.
That'd be a good thing if it does. If they help them, that'd be okay. Because they needed that because they've been out for most over a year now.
I'm really hopeful and praying that they really get those guys back to work because they're hurting.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
All right, thanks a lot, Megan. Well, Grand Bahama native Jonquel Jones and the Suns back in action. Meanwhile, track athletes gearing up for a weekend meet, and the Heat takes game 1 in their series. Marcellus Hall is up now with sports.
All right, thanks, Candino. Welcome to our sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. The WNBA season is back underway. That means Grand Bahama native Jonquel Jones is back on court with the Connecticut Sun. Last night, taking on the New York Liberty, trying to go to 2-1. Let's take a look at the performance. Jonquel Jones and the Connecticut Sun in action last night. Jones and the Sun on the road, taking on the New York Liberty. And, well, they were not gracious guests at all. Connecticut rolling to an easy win, and they destroyed New York. 92-65 ends up being your final score. As for Jonquel's performance, well, she played 21 minutes, finished up with 13 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal, filling out the stat sheet there. And most importantly, her team now goes to 2-1 on the season, as they are now 3rd in the Eastern Conference. Looking at the schedule for them, they play again on Friday when they take on the Indiana Fever. Now, on to some track and field news, where the Red Line Classic is set for this weekend. The Sonia Knowles Track Classic, hosted by Red Line Track Club, will take place through 2 days, May 21st and 22nd at the Thomas A. Robinson Track and Field Stadium. Meet officials do anticipate that the meet will be highly competitive. We'll give you details on that. To the NBA, where now the Eastern Conference Finals got started last night. Boston Celtics taking on the Miami Heat. Boston had the lead early on in this one, but sometime at halftime, the Miami Heat decided they wanted to win it, and they come back and get the win here with a dynamic second half. They get the win 118-107. Heat now lead that series 1-0, with Game 2 set to come your way tomorrow night. They'll play that also in Miami. And then, of course, the Western Conference Finals, they start this evening with the Dallas Mavericks and the Golden State Warriors playing Game 1 of their best-of-7. And that's indeed your look at sports here on this Hump Day Wednesday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Kendino.
All right, thanks a lot, Marcellus. Well, still to come on our news, what you need to know about a grand farewell for Sidney Poitier. Plus, Greg is back with your extended weather forecast.
Got size at 6'5". Hi, this is Sidney.
Welcome back to our news. It's time now for your extended weather forecast, and Greg is back in the Weather Center with a look at conditions for the rest of the week. Greg?
Thanks again, Kendino. Welcome back, everybody, for our second look at weather. As we're approaching the official start of the hurricane season, we're going to throw a couple of things at you at the beginning of the newscast, the weathercast. This is a graph now that shows how the systems tend to form over the course of the year. Of course, you notice early in the year we could have a named storm, but the official start of the hurricane, June 1st through November 30th, that's when we see all the activity, with the peak being around September 10th. And then we have another peak occurring somewhere in the middle of October. Of course, we want to encourage you to get your hurricane plans together, as it is expected to be an above average hurricane season. Where we look for these systems over the course of June, well, just to the north of the Bahamas, just off the Florida coast, into the southwest Caribbean, and of course the entire Gulf of Mexico. Those waters in the Gulf of Mexico at this time are very warm, so it's expected to be a very active one out there. Speaking of Southwest Caribbean, we are watching an area down there that's showing some slight signs of formation, some showers and thunderstorms trying to get its act together. We expect that to continue to move towards the northwest, with the first portion of that system moving into the Pacific, and what's left of it getting to the Gulf of Mexico. Shouldn't pose any problem for us, as it is expected to move away from us. But moisture associated with that system pulling back across Cuba, Hispaniola, and the southeast Bahamas with some isolated showers and thunderstorms, all of that will be moving out of the area as high pressure builds in for the balance of the week. Boating forecast for all areas tonight through tomorrow. Your winds will be out of the southeast to south at 10 to 15 knots. Seas running 2 to 4 feet. Those winds will fall light and variable at times. Your high tide will be at 10:44 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In your 7-day forecast, we should be pretty nice tomorrow, but by Friday we expect some of that moisture to pull up towards us from that system in the southwest Caribbean. So some showers and thunderstorms, but by the end of the weekend and at the beginning of next week, more pleasant conditions. That's a look at our weather. Back to you, Kendino.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. Amen. Amen. Sing it over.
All right, Sir Sidney Poitier has gone down in history as one of the most recognized and well-loved black actors in cinematic history. On his death nearly 5 months ago, the world bid farewell to the award-winning actor, author, director, cultural icon, and a great Bahamian. He was 94. The beloved actor, a trailblazer who helped transform how black people were portrayed in Hollywood, was the first nominated for a Best Actor Academy Award. And now the Davis administration is set to honor him with a series of events next month. Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell making the announcement in Parliament.
A state-recognized memorial service will be held at St. Francis Xavier's Cathedral in Nassau on Sunday, the 19th of June at 2 p.m. There is to be a cultural show in tribute and memorial to the late Bahamian actor, producer, writer, diplomat, and civil rights leader on Saturday, the 18th of June, 2022, at the Atlantis Convention Center beginning at 7 p.m., and a reception will follow. Officers of the state are to attend each of these events, including the cabinet, senators, members of parliament, public officials, in addition to the diplomatic corps and the public. Invitations will be dispatched shortly.
And hats off to the late Sir Sidney. Well, for more stories like this and all of today's top stories, be sure and visit Our News Bahamas on Facebook. Thank you for joining us for Our News Tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Candido Knowles. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Until then, have a wonderful evening.